Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials, without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/get-started for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
Anyone who mentions they heard this ad on the Opperman Report.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. Just contact me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show, be sure and check out our members, the Patreon. I just put up about 20 new shows on Patreon, and also an old appearance I did on Dr. Drew's Life Changers. It's a 3-part episode. I put that up in the Patreon too as well, so you can watch that as a video actually. In my younger days, I was 10 years younger. And also check out our archives. You can always find for free at Spreaker.com. Is the best place to go, Spreaker.com. And I do a live show there every Friday night where you can get exclusive content. And then we get sent an email notification out anytime there's new content. And there's a chat room, too, for listeners. Our guest today is Iris Flowers. And she's the mother of a young man, a young model named Ryan Singleton, who came to notice because he was found dead in the desert in Baker, California, out there, and his organs were missing. So they made the news all over the place. Well, what's going on here? Is this organ trafficking? What's going on? So we have his mother here to tell us the real, true facts from beginning to end. Iris Flowers, are you there?
I'm here, and I thank you so very much for letting me come on to talk with you and talk to the people who have supported me via social media and other means.
Exactly. Now let's get the story straight, instead of all this craziness out there. Before we get into your son, Ryan, tell us about yourself. Who is Iris Flowers?
I am a native Atlanta Georgian and born and raised here. Attended public school, went on to get a Bachelor of Science in Home Economics and Education from Clark Atlanta University. I am a mother of 2 sons, Ryan being my youngest. I'm a grandmother of 3. I am an auntie of many. And big sister, by the way, of 4 siblings by my mom and dad's marriage.
Very busy, very busy. Okay, you must have something. You must have some Thanksgiving then, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Although sadly, Thanksgiving is not like it was before because a lot of the people that I grew up with, including my mom, dad, stepmother, brother, son, sister, all are deceased. So we do the best we can for holidays.
Yeah. I think I told you the last time we tried to do this interview that I've interviewed so many mothers that have lost their sons, and almost always it's due to police violence. Unarmed young men who were shot down that never would have seen a jail cell, but for their or had any problem, but for their contact with the police. Innocent people. So it's a tragic, and you have our sympathies and our condolences for the loss of your son, Ryan Singleton. Tell us about Ryan. What was Ryan like?
Ryan was my youngest son, and there was a 6.5-year age gap between the first one and he. And he was my buddy. We were 2 peas in a pod. He loved me very unconditionally. Whatever I did was okay with him as long as I was being respected and taken care of. He kept me laughing. He was an athlete. He was an honor student all through school from kindergarten until he graduated. He was a ladies' man growing up, and until he left home at age 21 and a half. He was the teacher's pet. Everybody loved him at school. He was a great swimmer. He was a certified lifeguard when he left in 2013 to go to the West Coast. He was comical. He was very intelligent, and I told him often if ever I were to go on a TV show that had trivia, he would be the one I would call because he knew all the answers to everything. He was a wonderful person, and he was very loving, and I really miss him a lot.
Now, also, too, if people want to hear more about the story and keep up with the Iris Flowers and what she's doing here, there's a Facebook page called Truths Revealed and Justice, #4, Ryan Singleton.
Truth Revealed and Justice for Ryan Singleton is correct.
Exactly. Now, and people, there's going to be a link to it in the description, so you can find it on my Facebook, on my Twitter, and if you go to Spreaker, you'll find it in the link to the description there. Now, this story came to my attention because I saw a meme on Twitter that said, look at this young man, Ryan Singleton. He's modeling for Maria Abramovich and Lady Gaga, and now he's dead with his organs missing. So why don't we clarify that? Let's start with that, because I'm sure people are familiar with that meme.
Social media has a way of putting things out that are not true. That's one of the things that is not true. That is not Ryan. The model who actually did that gave me a call. Well, he actually found me on social media and let me know who he was, and that was him, and that was not Ryan. And there's so many speculations and theories and opinions of what happened to Ryan and what he did that it's amazing. It's simply amazing.
Yeah, and it's irresponsible, too, for people to be sharing these things without making a little bit of effort to reach out to the family and find out what's really going on. The website's right there, Truths Revealed, Justice for Ryan Singleton. It's right there. You can find it on Facebook and get the real facts. How did you come to know that your son had passed?
My son, in 2013, well, in 2010, he left home to pursue his dreams of being a model in New York, and then he did that and accomplished all those goals in New York, and he got together with some friends or buddies, and they left New York after he accomplished those goals and went to L.A., and they started doing red carpet events and became cameramen, and then in 2012, they got a job filming a movie called Black November through Kite Brewster. And they came, after he left in 2010, 2012, he decided to come back through Atlanta, going to New York to present this film they had done to United Nations. And he came back home. I hadn't seen him in 2.5 years. And they went to New York, and when they got to New York, he and the team, he decided he was not going back with his team. He remained in New York, and he got attached to Kite Brewster. And this was September 2012. December 2012, Ryan was married to Kite Brewster in a wedding, and this was my first time ever knowing that Ryan was in the gay lifestyle. And for him to be married to a much older man, it was just shocking to me and my family.
Well, explain this. Who is Kite Brewster?
Kite Brewster is a person that Ryan met when he first left Atlanta in 2010 to go to New York. He did a fashion show for Kite Brewster. And this is all, there was a 6-episode docuseries last year on Bounce TV. What happened? What was the name of it? Oh, my goodness, I forget the name of it. But it was on, and a lot of this details came out because when Ryan left in 2010, I didn't know what happened to him. But he met Kite Brewster in New York, and apparently they kept communication between each other going because Kite was in the fashion industry. He says he's a designer for the stars, and he designed a lot of things for a lot of people, including Beyonce and maybe Tyra Banks and some other people. But again, you can go on social media and check him, search for him and find out his credentials.
Yeah, I think they describe him as a stylist, and he has some connections to the Real Housewives of Atlanta. I believe he's appeared on there a couple of times.
Yes, he did. He did the first wedding to Peter with Cynthia Bailey on Housewives of Atlanta, and I didn't look at Housewives of Atlanta until many years later because Ryan was involved with Kite and found out that Kite and Cynthia Bailey were best friends at that time. And, so.
Well, let me answer this. When you see Ryan on the news getting married to Kite. What did the family say? The rest of the family say, "Oh my goodness, Ryan's gay. We don't know this."
We were all sitting around, scratching our heads and looking at each other and wondering what happened. When did this take place? When he changed his lifestyle? Because we never knew him to be gay or interested in men. Growing up, he was a ladies' man. I mean, we couldn't keep the ladies away. We had to, it was just something that we didn't expect. But of course, we would accept it. And then we were kind of hurt because when you get married, this is a big event in a person's life, and we wanted to be invited, but it came up on social media on Cynthia Bailey's Twitter, the pictures and the congratulations, and she was in a wedding with other people, and we were shocked, but we would have been supportive, but that's not the way that he did it. He eloped, basically he eloped, and we saw it on social media, so it was a big shock to all of us, but we loved him and we wanted him to come home so he could discuss stuff with us.
And no one in the family had the ability to reach out to him, his cell phone number, or even the cell phone numbers of his friends?
He never returned phone calls during this. Well, in 2010, when he left to go to New York, he disappeared early in the family, didn't contact anybody for 6 months. Then he contacted me, when he turned 20, he was turning 22. And we always made a big issue about our ages, turning our ages, the date of our birthday. So he contacted me after he'd been gone. And then he left and went to California with his friends he'd met and left Atlanta to go to New York with. And he would sporadically call me and keep in contact or text me. And then when he came back through Atlanta in 2012 and went to New York and decided to stay, September 2012, I just seen him. He cut off communication with everybody until December 2012 when we noticed the text from Cynthia Bailey on social media that her best friend Kite had gotten married to my son Ryan.
Did he ever give you a reason why he was sporadically cutting off contact with family?
No, he never did. He never did. Ryan was a private person, and he did keep the lines of communication open when he was at home growing up. So he could have been influenced by the people that he was with not to communicate. I have no idea. I can only speculate on that. Ryan's not here to tell me, and he didn't tell me when he was alive.
Do you think this was a happy relationship?
I think not, because they got married in December of 2012, and in March of 2013, he and Kite both came to Atlanta so that we could all meet and greet each other. And then when it was time for them to return to New York, April 2013, Ryan did not go back. He stayed home with me, and he separated away from Kite.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
And I believe he made some bizarre statements to you. He took you in a car one day and he had a conversation.
Yeah, after he came home in April of 2013, he remained home. He wanted to get up and have a private conversation with myself and him. He wanted me to get him in the car, which we did, and circle around the block and come to the back side of the apartment complex we were living in. And he, told me to turn the car off and look at him in his face. And I did, and he said, "Mom, tell me the truth. Something bad is going to happen to me, isn't it?" And it floored me because I never expected such a statement to come out of his mouth. He was the only person. He was my hero. At 24, he left home. At 21, went to New York, a place he didn't know anything about. Became a model instantly without a agent, portfolio, or any of that. Left there and went to California and became a cameraman. And I never knew him to use a camera. He was an athlete. He ran track. He played football one year, and he said, "Mom, tell me the truth. Something bad is going to happen to me." And I'm like, "Oh, my God, my son, have you been away and you're addicted to drugs or have been addicted to drugs and you owe a big bill to a drug person and they're looking for you?" He said, No. I said, "Okay, have you borrowed a lot of money and you owe somebody for money and they're coming after you?" He said, No. So I'm like, well, why would you say something like this? Because I don't understand. You're one person who's lived a beautiful, complete life at age 24. and you've been successful, so I only see good things for you. Although I'm not God, so I don't know what the relationship is between you and God and why you feel that way. But this is what I can tell you. If you feel like you've done a lot of things he told me, he said, well, I've done a lot of things to hurt a lot of people. I said, well, you need to go and ask for their forgiveness unless it's going to cost you your life. And in that case, I would prefer that you go down on your knees in prayer and ask God for forgiveness for whatever you feel like you've done people wrong. And, of course, I thought about his team members who he abandoned when he went to New York. And, of course, I thought about Kite, whom he separated from in just 3 months after being married.
Now what about you see these stories, especially like on cops, those kind of cop shows, where a guy's running, he thinks people are tracing him, and he's like paranoid because he's on drugs. Was there any signs that maybe this was a drug abuse type of thing?
None whatsoever. He was absolutely clean. As I said, he became a certified lifeguard, and he had to go through training for that. And they did test him for drugs and such, and he was absolutely clean. There was nothing there.
And do you have experience in your life of dealing with people and recognizing those symptoms?
If he would have been
not just him, anybody. If you're a student, you said you worked in the school system.
I grew. I raised him in Greater Homes housing projects from a little boy. He was born there actually in '89 until we moved out in about 2004. Somewhere in there. But yeah, we saw it was all around us. Okay. Everywhere.
So you'd be familiar with that. Okay. And you don't believe that he was paranoid because of drug use?
He was not on drugs, but he was paranoid about something. He was paranoid about hurting people's feelings and doing things that wasn't nice, like abandoning his teammates and leaving his husband, and also disappearing and not telling me where he was or being in contact with me. Those are three things that come to my mind now. Anything other than that, I can't tell you because Ryan's not here.
I got you. Okay, so what happens next?
So he comes home, he gets a job as a lifeguard, and I say that's about May, June. Around sometime July the 4th, we go out to the family, celebrate the holiday, come home, and then he wants me to get right back up and take him to downtown Atlanta to go meet a friend. So 4th of July, going into the 5th of July early morning hours, I took him to downtown Atlanta, and he met a friend. I don't know what friend he met, but he also ran into a friend associated with his original members that he went to California with from New York. And this friend said he saw Ryan downtown in a hotel bar with a pocket full of money. And after that, Ryan came home on the 5th of July, and that evening he wanted to ride to the airport. And he asked me like 30 minutes before it was time to go catch a flight. And I lived in East Atlanta. He wanted to go to South Atlanta, so it was going to take about 45 minutes to an hour to get there. But we never made it because the weather turned bad, so he came back home. That night, he and I sat in his room, and we talked for hours about the way he was conceived and growing up as a boy. We know his whole entire life. And I told him, I said, well, this is a bit much for me because now I feel like, once again, you're going to vanish out of my life. I'm not going to know where you are. You're telling me that you're going to the West Coast. You're going to Las Vegas. He said he's going to Las Vegas to try out for a professional football team. He threw a football into his luggage, which was a joke in retrospect. Mm-hmm. And I have no idea if he went near a football camp to try out. But he also told me not to tell his spouse or his partner, Kite, that he was going to the West Coast. And so I told him, I said, well, Ryan, you're doing all this secret stuff. And what if there's an emergency and something happens and I need to call or talk to somebody? You're not telling me where you're going, who you're going to be with, giving me any information, addresses, or phone numbers. God forbid if something terrible happened to you, I will be able to bury you. I will be able to have a service up, but let's hope that doesn't happen. The only way that I'm going to know, Ryan, if anything happens to you, honestly, is the police is going to have to come knock on my door and tell me. And that is exactly what happened. Ryan got on the 6th of July, he got up and I gave him a ride to the public transportation subway, and he took that to the airport and caught his flight to the West Coast. I thought he was going to Las Vegas, but he actually went to Los Angeles. He had a friend in Los Angeles that picked him up from the airport and took him to the residence, and they had dinner, what have you, and talked. And then, from my understanding, Ryan wanted to ride to the airport the next day to go do something with a car. So what he did was went to rent a car, and he rented a car, and he drove from Los Angeles to Arizona to New Mexico to Las Vegas. And on his way back to L.A. to come home, which was the 9th of July, he ended up in Baker, California, and his car running out of gas at about 2 o'clock or 2:15 in the afternoon. And I got this story from the original detective that called me when Ryan was a missing person. They called me and they said, well, Miss Flowers, first of all, two people.
Well, let's stop for a second, because how was it that he became a missing person? Because his car broke down, and his friend from California went to Baker to pick him up.
Okay, so the 6th of July, he left Atlanta and went to the West Coast. He got the car, the rental car, and he drove. So the 7th and the 8th, he was on the road. And then on the 9th, he was scheduled to come home. So on the 9th, he's traveling back to L.A., and he stops over in Baker, California, because his car runs out of gas, the rental car. So at 9:30 in the morning here in Atlanta time, which is 6:30 California time, he gave me a call early in the morning asking me to send him an emergency $100 that he had in his room. And which I did. I said, well, Ryan, please don't go too far. It's only going to take me 15 minutes. I'm going to send it to you, Western Union. I'm going to call you back and give you the number that you need to retrieve the money. And if you don't answer, I'll text it to you. But please pick up the phone. And he never did. So the 9th of July 2013 was the last time I heard my son's voice. The 10th of July, on the 9th of July, he also called a friend. Okay, the 9th of July, he was in Baker, California. His rental car broke down, and he was walking on the highway, according to the detectives that called me to let me know he was a missing person at that time. But his friend in California, when he was pulled to California Highway Patrolman, saw Ryan walking down the highway, stopped and asked him what was he doing walking out in the Mojave Desert at the heat of the day at the hottest part of the year. And they asked Ryan for his driver's license. And Ryan pulled his license out, and it had organ donor on it, and he was from Atlanta, and he was a long way from home, 2,000 miles or so, by himself. And they said, well, you know, they checked him to make sure he wasn't wanted for any warrants or anything. And they said, well, we're going to give you a ride and see if we can find your car. They put him in the back of the police car and took him around to see if they could find the car. As he was riding in the back of the police car, he called his friend in L.A. and said, look, I'm in Baker. My car has run out of gas. I don't have any money. Can you come and pick me up, and can you send me some money? And his friend said, well, I'm going to send you some money so that you can get you something to eat and sit down somewhere in a restaurant, and I'll be there. It'll take me about 3 hours to get from L.A. to Baker. And, of course, this is like 2:30 in the afternoon. The friend made it. I mean, the police took Ryan to a AM/PM convenience store and dropped him off there. And Ryan went in the store, made a purchase, bought something to drink and eat, paid for it. It was captured on surveillance, walked out of the store and vanished. Now, I don't know where the police officers were, but they went looking for Ryan and claimed they couldn't find him, that he had just vanished into thin air. And this has got to be about 2:30 or 2:45 in the afternoon. So his friend finally make it around 5:30, 6 o'clock-ish to look for Ryan, and he's nowhere to be found. No one seems to have seen him or any of that. So his friend drives back to L.A. and wait 24 hours and decides to call the police and file a missing persons report. So this is the 10th of July, 2013. So at 9 p.m. here in Atlanta time, I get a call from a detective in Barstow, California, that Ryan had been reported as an official missing person. He dispatched to Georgia, and 2 police officers knocked on my front door, which is what I told Ryan. It was going to be the only way that I would know something happened to him. And when I saw those 2 police ladies standing at my door knocking, I knew then something was wrong.
But that was about 70 days later, though, that they actually found his body, right?
It was 74 days later.
Right.
He was a missing person for 74 days. And he was less than 2 miles away from the last place he was seen with the 2 police officers when they found him. And when they found him, he was skeletonized and mummified and weighed, his remains were like 50 pounds. Ryan was 6'6" and about 170, 80 pounds, 65, 70, 80 pounds. And he had no eyes when there was a detective that called me.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
Deputy coroner, they called me. Ryan was found September the 21st. That was on a Saturday evening. Sunday afternoon, I got a call from a deputy coroner, Johnson, that informed me that they had found Ryan. And the way he was sounding, I thought Ryan may have been in jail, and he was telling me they found him in jail under a different name or something. But he said, no, ma'am, he's deceased. And, of course, I lost it. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me this. When you found Ryan, was his eyes open or was his eyes closed? Because Ryan had the most beautiful eyes ever. And he said, ma'am, there were no eyes. I said, what? He said, ma'am, there were no eyes. There were no organs. And I'm like, what do you mean there were no organs? He said, ma'am, there was no eyes. There was no heart, lung, liver, or kidneys. And I immediately said, well, that sounds like somebody took his organs and sold them on the black market, because those are the major organs of a body that a person needs to live. And then they just dumped him over to the side. He had his shoes on, his socks on. He had on a pair of athletic shorts, and he had an orange rubber bracelet on his right hand, on his right arm. And all of his organs were missing. And they tried to tell me that animals were responsible for this. And that didn't sit with me, because I'm like, how can animals be responsible when out in the desert they would have torn him apart? And you know, they said he was remarkably intact. How can you be remarkably intact with all your organs missing, but you find him and he's not strewn about all over the place? They told me that there was a few rib bones that was a short distance away from the body, but they were there. You know, they weren't gone somewhere that they couldn't find them. They were there as well.
We're talking today to the mother of Ryan Singleton, Iris Flowers. You can find more information about this if you go to the Facebook page, Truths Revealed and Justice, number 4, Ryan Singleton. This is that bizarre story you see on the internet about the young man that was found out in the desert with his organs missing. Now, we left off, before we get in again to the whole story about the wildlife versus whatever else could possibly have happened, what is the story with them finding the rental car?
Okay, so in the original missing person investigation, on the 10th when I got the call that he was reported as an official missing person, the 11th came, and there was a lady assigned instead of the original person who called me. And she informed me on the 11th, as well as Kite, that Ryan's rental car had been found the next day parked up a hill by a power pole, wiped clean the fingerprints. His backpack was in the car, and the phone was in the car.
A quick question. Do we know how they found the rental car? Was there like a LoJack or a GPS system in the car, and that's how the rental car company found it?
The rental car didn't find it. The police, there was a person who lived in the area that noticed the car was there and called the police, and then it was discovered that was the car Ryan was in, and it had his backpack in there and stuff. So no.
Okay, that's interesting. So now, what are your suspicions about? Because even the autopsy comes out later on and it says it's wildlife, but you still have suspicions. What are your suspicions that you think went on there in Baker?
I believe Ryan was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and somebody hit him in the head, because there was some stuff on the autopsy that shows that he hemorrhaged on the right side of his skull. They hit him on the head, knocked him out, and also on the autopsy shows that he has a linear fracture across the shoulder blades, both the left and the right, which indicates to me he was hit again, although they said it was because he fell down. No such thing. All internal organs of the chest, abdomen, and pelvis were missing, secondary to animal activity. He had 2 tattoos, and the places where the tattoos were, all the flesh was missing. Somebody removed. There's no way you're gonna tell me animals can remove tattoos off of a person. Not a furry, pointy ears, tail wagging, howling animal or something was not going to do that to a human. It's just not. And because of that, Ryan's remains did come to Georgia, and I got to go look at them with my own eyes, as well as some other family members. And there was a hole on the right side of Ryan's skull that was serrated all around, about the size of a quarter, but that was never mentioned in the autopsy. And so I had him examined here by a chief medical examiner and buried Ryan in 2013. And in 2016, I got a call from the medical examiner telling me to come pick up Ryan's body because he was retiring and he had nowhere to store Ryan's body. And, that was the most bizarre call ever, second to they had found Ryan with no organs. And so this medical examiner called the mortician, and the mortician sent his workers out to see what it was that he had that he wanted me to come pick up. And in fact, we picked up the body bag that Ryan's remains were shipped home in, but there was no skeleton or anything inside the body bag. So at this point, in 2021, I don't even know if Ryan's remains are in the ground, buried in the casket that we put in the grave exhumed, and someone to examine it.
Well, that's interesting. Now, that's interesting because that sounds either way like some gross negligence by this medical examiner guy and also the funeral home if things are unaccounted for. Now, that's interesting.
And similar to Kendrick Johnson, the young man in Valdosta, Georgia, who was allegedly rolled up, but he in a gym mat upside down, and his mother and father had to exhume his grave twice. They had to bury him 3 times, exhumed him twice, to find out that his organs were missing and he was stuffed with newspaper.
Yeah, that's a very bizarre story, too. Now, we talked about you putting me in touch with the family there to do an interview?
With Kendrick Johnson's mom?
Yeah. See if you can arrange that for me. I'd love to shed some light on that story, too, as well.
Okay, because right now she is, they have the documentary out,
Gotcha.
Finding Kendrick Johnson, yeah.
Oh, so you think they want to promote it? We can bring them on the show?
I mean, I'm sure she's, condolences to her and her family, and I did definitely meet her and her family, Kendra's mom and dad, sister and brother and grandma and nieces and everything, and spent the night in their home early on in the years after Ryan. This was about 2014, 2015. I met her personally. And so every time you go and you Google Ryan Singleton, Kendrick Johnson is going to pop up right there because these are 2 young men from Georgia whose organs was missing. They had bizarre deaths. But
let me ask this a question, Ms. Flowers. How possible is it that they could do some kind of organ trafficking out there in the desert and then return his body there to the desert? Have you considered all those possibilities?
Yes, because since Ryan went missing and his skeleton remains were found, there have been many, many, many other people behind him. There in the docuseries, Dying to Be Famous, the Ryan Singleton Mystery, they have a graphic showing the area where many, many bodies have been found, skeletal remains have been found, but there's no explanation as to what happened to all these people. Right now, someone contacted me yesterday. There's a young man, I think his name is Daniel Robinson. He's missing from Arizona since early July or something, but in this time frame of the season, June, July, when it's extremely hot in the Mojave Desert, it only takes how long for a body to disintegrate in the heat when that's the hottest place on Earth. In the United States.
Now,
that needs to be investigated because there are so many skeletal remains that have been found.
Yeah, well,
in that
also
area.
too, there's a history too of highway patrol on that stretch, rapes and of women and stuff like that. This has gone on. And it's a creepy town anyway too. It's a creepy location.
Well, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that baker. But this is the Baker AM PM where they have this big giant, the largest thermometer in the world that shows the temperature and stuff. And there's a Denny's over there. It's a frequent stop. People making that trip back and forth from California to Vegas. It's one of the places to stop.
And this summer, they tried to boost the tourism by saying this is such a great place to come and visit and all of this and that. I'm like, how can it be when my son was found dead with no organs there? You guys aren't putting that out. And all the other people that were found skeletonized, really?
Now, this show airs on AM/FM radio in Las Vegas, KSHP, and also in California, KCAA. So maybe we can get some tips. Now, what was you suspect was the real reason for this trip back and forth and going to New Mexico and all these other places, besides his story about the football?
Okay, so I have to take Ryan at his word. He told me that, Mom, I'm going to Las Vegas to try out for a professional football team. And Mom, that's what I had to go with until he passed away and all the investigations were done, and it was found out that's not what he did. Well, I can't say if he did or not, but he went all these other places. I have no idea what he was doing. None whatsoever. Ryan's not here, and he's not here to tell me, and he didn't tell me before he left the world. So that's something that we're going to have to just try to use the best of detective technologies in 2021 to see if we can come up with this. I thought that was going to happen with the docuseries, but it didn't happen. His friends focused more on themselves and how they were together as a group, more entertaining than investigative. No one took the time to take the autopsy and go through it. And no one ever told me how long he was out in the desert, something I was looking for. When a person does an autopsy, there's a chart of a body that you can draw points on that was hurt or damaged or missing or whatever. I never got one of those. I had a little kid to do one for me. And, it shows a lot. Like I said, there's a lot in that autopsy that needs to be revisited and talked about and get to some, because they list his death as undetermined, manner and cause of death undetermined due to decomposition. That, but yet you say that his organs are missing secondary to animal activity and his 2 tattoos are gone. There's something more that has to be done. But what more can I do as a mother that is retired and limited income? No help. I don't know who to reach out to. I don't know how to get this done. But I can just keep, talking about it, and maybe somebody out there with a listening ear and a warm heart to say, let me go help this lady find out what happened to her son.
How cooperative have the local police been?
The local police have nothing to do with it because it happened in California.
No,
the police in California.
That's what I meant. Where the body was located, yeah.
The body, when he was found, San Bernardino Sheriff's Department out in California were the one who took over the case because Baker.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
Barstow, San Bernardino, they're all one jurisdiction. And San Bernardino happens to be the biggest one. So when they came along and Ryan's remains were found and they took it back to the morgue or wherever they took it to, there was a whole nother different story that came out as to what happened to Ryan. They said Ryan was actually running down the highway, running to their car, asking for help, and he had bruises and scratch marks over him, saying that he had been fighting with wild animals. And I'm like, where did this come from? This is not what I was told during the missing person investigation. And then when the investigators for the docuseries went out and asked questions, they told him that Ryan had been riding around all those places because he was a male prostitute and he was on drugs, he was on meth, and he was looking for Johns to support his meth habit. But the autopsy clearly says there was nothing in his body And the police officers said in their report that Ryan didn't appear to be intoxicated or on drugs, so they dropped him off at the store. So that's another story that came out.
I believe the autopsy, too, said that there was no indications of drugs, right?
I'm sorry?
The autopsy, too, said that there was no drugs in the system?
Toxicity shows there was no drugs in the system.
Okay. Now, there were some suspicious financial transactions that the police made you aware of.
Okay, so Kite and I was talking to the investigator during the missing person time. The lady said, "Can you all give me permission to get his phone records and his bank records?" That was on the 11th of July, so like the 12th or the 13th of July. She called back and said, "Why is everybody sending Ryan money?" And I wasn't aware of it, but Kite chimed in and said that he sends the money because that's his husband, and he's a freelance videographer, and he does, videos for people. So that's probably why he was having different amounts of money sent. And I can believe that because when he was home with me, he made enough money working as a lifeguard, and I took him to Best Buy, and he purchased a camera, and then he had to go back and get the flash. And, he was filming and doing things on his own. He made business cards and stuff here in Atlanta. So, other than that, I have no idea.
But in order to try and figure out what happened to Ryan, these phone records and bank records are in the possession of the police department. The case is over. Has anybody requested these phone records and bank records from them?
When they did the docuseries, the case is still open, but it's cold. It's not a closed case. Once they close the case, the FBI can pick it up and investigate themselves. But at this moment, as far as I know, it's a cold case. It's not closed.
Okay, but then what about if they had to go to his husband, Kite, to get permission for the phone records and the bank records, then he could obtain those bank records and phone records on his own as well, couldn't he?
I would assume so. Being the spouse of Ryan, I hope legally, because Ryan and Kite were married December 2012 in New York, and Kite sent me a copy of the certificate of marriage registration that wasn't registered until after Ryan was found in September 2013. So I need to get verification that they are actually legally married, because I don't know if they are or not. Because when I got married and I had the certificate, I had to take it into the courthouse,
right?
In a certain number of days, for it to be legitimized. But Kite waited a whole year later, almost from December 2012 to September 2013, to have it legitimized.
And then also, too, there was some way that there was a lawsuit against the car rental company for having a car run out of gas, and there was a settlement.
That was allegedly discovered during the time of the production of the docuseries Dying to Be Famous, the Ryan Singleton Mystery. According to the producer, T.D. Faison, he claimed that Kite had filed a lawsuit against the rental car company that Ryan used in 2015, and he won and settled out of court in 2018. So, allegedly, I don't have any of this. As his mother, when this docuseries was being done and I was being interviewed and they had the people investigating stuff, I was kept in the dark. I didn't even know when it aired what was going to be there. When they take it to editing, they clip and put stuff together the way they want it. So I had no idea of anything. I was just there as a body in retrospect, Okay, two questions really quick, because we only have about 5 minutes left. One, are there other people I can interview that you can put me in touch with, that I can interview for the radio show that could shed more light on this story? Think about it. Okay, think about it. Yeah, think about it. The other question is this, real quick. What is your relationship today with Kite and with the fellows with the documentary and his buddies? He was traveling around Georgia, California. What's your relationship? There is no communication between any of us. I spent 2013 until November of 2020 with Ryan's friends, and who I thought were his friends. But after seeing the docuseries, it was very clear that the person in charge was not whom he said he was, and didn't do what he said he was going to do to help Ryan's mom out and compensate me and what have you. Kite, and I reached out to Kite the last time I talked. Well, I didn't talk. I texted him in 2015, and he accused me of hating him and stuff. So he cut me off, and we have no communication. I don't hate any of them, but after a while, you have to remove yourself away from negativity and things that are not happening and it's not being fair.
So if any of these fellows are listening to the show today, what would you want to tell them? To reach out to me and try and get some more, shed some more light on this story, get some tips to come in of what could have happened?
I would like for someone who is able to help me pro bono to come and speak to me and help me out, especially in California because I'm in Georgia. I would like for someone to I needed someone in Georgia to help me get Ryan's grave exhumed to see if his remains are even in the grave.
Well, you know what? Yeah, then the funeral home or the medical examiner should be paying for that because it's their mix-up. The confusion is caused by them.
Maybe, but I need an attorney or someone who have more knowledge than what I have in order to get that done. You know, I'm sitting here and just going back and forth because no one's giving me any answers, no one's giving me any help, and I really don't know which way to go. I am a 63-year-old retired early childhood educator. I can tell you about the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, but when it comes to trying to find out everything that happened to my son, I'm a lone person. I don't have a father, a mother, or anyone to help me out. Other people have a significant other. I don't have any of that. Mm-hmm. So it's been quite the feat to try to find out anything.
And that this medical examiner, this coroner there in Georgia, this is someone you hired, you retained him, or he worked for the state?
I definitely hired him. He was a chief medical. Yes, he's a chief medical examiner here in the state of Georgia at that time. Since that time, he has retired, and I don't even know if he's living or if he's around or what's going on with him anymore.
Okay. All right. We've been talking to Iris Flowers. She's the mother of Ryan Singleton, the young model that was found in the desert in Baker, California, with his organs missing. If anybody has any tips, get a hold of me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If there's anybody related to this story, we've talked about you on this show and you want to come on and give your side of the story, get a hold of me at oppermanreport@gmail.com. Miss Iris Flowers, what do you want to leave us with? We got about 1 minute.
I want to leave you with everyone. Just hold on and get tight. This is still happening. Be aware of who you are at all. Be aware where you are at all the time. Let somebody know. Please go to Facebook, Truth Reveal Justice for Ryan Singleton. Become a member, and I post articles there all the time. And I want to thank everybody for your support and prayers.
And Iris, we want to thank you too. You had to come on the show twice because the first recording got botched up. And I know how difficult it is, even before the show and then after the show, it stays with you. So thank you so much for being brave and coming on here and making the truth and some facts come out on this story. Iris,
thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Good night.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities. Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities. Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.